Feel the magic, join the remembering. Hi, Gaila.
Hi, Celia.
So I was going to start with a quote that I have at the beginning of my book, Hippie Wars. I believe in love of land, each other. I'm a hippie. Are you?
I most certainly am.
Um, what does it mean to you? What does Hippydom mean to you?
Well, I guess it means that I have beliefs and I'm not concerned with what other people think, not in a way of them being dangerous to anyone or um, anti establishment to the point of any violence. It's just that I believe that all people should be able to be themselves and express themselves, maybe wear what you want, speak how you wish, wear your hair how you wish, and not be under the control of style and what the culture dictates all the time. I hate to feel controlled that way. And I like to be able to be really honest. I feel that my whole family, myself and everyone, are really honest people. And I don't understand how people cannot be honest. I really don't get it. And that was always a big part of the problem I had with society. I felt like it was just a put on front, a way of controlling people, a way of influencing people to have to concede to a norm, to a certain way of doing things, certain way of looking, certain way of eating, certain way of everything controlled.
So for me, yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's about freedom.
Absolutely. Absolutely about freedom.
I mean, how does that sit in with individual freedom versus the community? There was a sense for me that like the hippie movement was a lot about finding community that you could feel that freedom with community and that yeah politically certainly I agree with you that there was a sense of kind of societies and families having this kind of rigid control over you. So there was a degree of rebellion in it, but as human beings, we're kind of community creatures anyway. So just a little bit on that's interesting for me.
I think about college and how I found it like high school. I could memorize and regurgitate and get A's, get high scores. And it was so disappointing to me. This was at Boston University.
And yeah.
And and I lost interest because of that, because it was not creative. And there was the whole stigma of having to go to college and finish. And I was going to be the family's first college graduate. And I disappointed everyone. And I really didn't care.
It's because interesting because when I was at school as well, I was kind of good at school when I was younger, and I remember like being t studying one thing one year, and then the next year my teachers turned around to me and said, "Well, that actually wasn't completely true, and now I'm going to teach you something different." And that really annoyed me. I was like, "Well, what do you mean you're?" I thought what I was being taught there was an inherent truth in that, and then now you're telling me that it wasn't actually the whole truth. I don't. And that really pissed me off because it made me, this was quite young, this is before college for me, but it made me realize that these people that were in these positions of authority that I felt like I should be able to trust were kind of playing with me a bit. And even as a kid, that really pissed me off. Like you, I think I was very keen to know what the truth was. I felt like if we didn't have honesty between us, like what was our baseline, and to some extent, although I wasn't a hippie in the sense of being part of the 60s and 70s, I'm feeling an affiliation and a resonation with that idea that the establishment, I was like, whoa, there's just this kind of thing that I'm just supposed to trust you. And yet you're going to tell me that you're not telling me the truth. Or suddenly I'm going to look a little bit deeper into this. And actually, this isn't the whole truth.
Yeah, that would be very disturbing. Just found that I wanted to have fun. I,
Yeah.
I really wanted to have a good time. And there were the options of using psychedelics to have a good time.
When
And
was
I
your first experience of that then? How did you first come across psychedelics? And what was your first time that you tried it?
up in Boston, I actually had LSD liquid from this young man, a student who we called Magic Man. And it was from Timothy Leary's lab. It was
Really?
the original created by Timothy Leary, LSD, and that is what I was given it in a dropper under the tongue.
And was that with a group of people or how did that come about? Hi.
Yeah, we had a group of us.
You were you with people that knew what they were doing or had some people in the group had more experience with it or
God, I'm trying to remember. I don't know.
was it fun?
Oh, so fun. I mean, we went on trips up the coast to New Hampshire and we went to the ocean and then I also just walked through parks through in Boston, the Commons. We would walk and walk really long distances and with all that energy from the drugs and never did anything crazy, never got hurt, never hurt anyone. We talked of wanting to put it in the water supply.
Ah, that's hilarious.
Oh yeah. We I knew people who were um, politically
Oh,
radical. I was mostly just apolitical.
yeah.
I just have always felt like politicians are just people who are weird, just people who are not honest. And I just could not get into it. I could not care enough, I guess, politically to get that involved. I
Did
love
you
to dance, and we did a
love
lot of singing and
dancing? Yeah.
going.
I mean, how was the kind of was the Vietnam and the draft, was that kind of very much part of, this
Oh,
exploration of freedom that you were experiencing as well, the sense that leaders and, we the people wasn't potentially really looking out for you?
absolutely. I would have. I know people that left the country. My father's brother went to Canada, the younger brother of my father, to avoid the draft.
Hmm.
I have family in Canada because of that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Found senates in Canada. I don't believe in a draft. I don't believe that people should be forced to fight a war. If
Absolutely.
if men or women want to go to a war, well, then they go, but not forced by the government.
Do you think that kind of infused, the movement and the dance and that sense of joy, I mean, one of the phrases that I love from the hippie times is, make love, not war. How did that kind of infuse the experience?
It was liberating. It was joyful. It was a philosophy that I could embrace. And I left the area because I could not handle being controlled by my family, and they would never stop. even though I had been married once and we broke up. I was back in their house for a while, and they were very controlling. My dad would even be up when I came home. He would be waiting up to check me out.
Wow.
And I was, 20 years old and I'd been married, and it was ridiculous. So I took the opportunity to go west to a place I knew no one really. I knew I had a phone number of a friend from college in Colorado and another phone number in Arizona. And being from the East Coast, I thought they were really close to New Mexico because the ride I was getting to New Mexico was with my high school best friend's ex-boyfriend who had just graduated Tufts, was an engineer, and had been in Taos and wanted to go back through before he went to Germany to work. And he had a drive-away car. And see, did I date him? Not sure, but I asked to go with him, and he said sure that I could be the co-pilot. I could light his cigarettes
I was
for
going
him.
to say, did that involve rolling the joints for the ride or?
It involved lighting his cigarettes
Okay.
and getting addicted again to tobacco.
Really just through the passive smoke.
Well, just lighting his cigarette.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Got into it again. And I came out to Taos, where I'd never been, didn't know anybody.
What
And
was the twinkle of Taos? I mean, did it kind of twinkle to you before you came? What were you hearing about it before you got here?
Michael talked about it because he'd been here, and he talked about it and it sounded wonderful. And he had some friends that he wanted to see because he had a leather sewing machine for them, and I fell in with these people to be like an au pair and take care of their 5-year-old daughter and teach 5-year-old tumbling, which I did my whole life. I taught her to do cartwheels and forward rolls and headstands and such, and carried water in a wooden bar from the well, with buckets attached to this bar, like
Really? Like,
across my shoulders,
no, no, really.
carrying water to the house, and the deer flies biting me as I was walking. There was nothing I could do because I had to keep holding on to the bar. But there was really an incredible experience. And I was yearning for experience. I did not like being restricted to 4 years of college and going to Boston University and living in a dorm and coming back and forth. And it was, they had a rule at Boston University that unless it was below 20 degrees or below, you could not wear pants to
You're
class.
joking,
I had to
really.
wear skirts, and we
Amazing.
were not allowed to go down into the uh, restaurant, the eating hall, whatever they called it, where the students go and eat in a dorm, with anything on your head, like any kind of a hat or any kind of a scarf, because the girls back then were putting big rollers in their hair and wanted to come to the meal with the rollers in their hair. That was not allowed. But I really liked wearing pants and could not wear pants. It was Victorian. Really didn't work for me.
What was the proportion of girls at Boston University? I mean, were there quite a lot of girls at this point at the college, or were you still quite outnumbered, or
I don't really know. I mean, I was in a girls' dorm
yeah.
when I had a female a roommate. That was the girl from Arizona. So I really don't know what the ratio was. But we brought this drive-away car to Las Vegas, and I had never been to Las Vegas. I'd never been out of the East Coast, and well, I'd been to California with my first husband, but So we dropped the car in Las Vegas, and then we walked through a casino. It's the first time I'd ever been in a casino, and it was daytime or morning, and we walked through this casino. Or that was really fun, and then we went out on the road to hitchhike
Oh,
back
wow.
to the
Okay.
house. So we were out on the road for, well, maybe 45 minutes, or it was a while, and someone took us to Hoover Dam, as far as Hoover Dam. And we waited. It was starting to get dark. And we were like, wow, we're going to have to put our sleeping bags down on the ground here and just bite the bullet. We're not getting picked up. And all of a sudden, a hippie Volkswagen bus with a split window, the old Volkswagen bus
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with a couple at the wheel. And they stopped. They had two children in seats. And where were they going?
Towers.
The house.
Oh,
But we had to camp with them for 2 nights in the Grand Canyon.
oh dear.
Yeah. They brought us to Taos. It was beautiful. And that is actually when I met the folks that lived up in the Arroyo Seco.
Mhm.
And so I fell into wonderful job there. And then I ended up meeting Jimmy, who was the father of my children and was the love of my life.
Yes. I mean, some of the photos we look through, I mean, some of those images, Gaila, are literally hippie, iconic images. I mean, that one of you, I mean, that's such a fantastic image. The one of you two kissing each other, was that at your wedding ceremony? That's so beautiful. And you're kind of lying in each other. I mean, it's so lovely, that image. I mean, so classic,
The love, you feel the love. It was so wonderful. It was so wonderful.
Hmm.
So between meeting him and being in Taos, I went to Mexico. I hitchhiked. with I did a lot of hitchhiking back then. I was not afraid to hitchhike.
That's
And I
great.
hitchhiked with this guy all the way to Mexico through Arizona. And then we trained it and bussed it all the way to Guatemala.
Wow. That's great, isn't it?
It was really fantastic, except I did get hepatitis.
Oh, did you? Liver, like,
No, it never
yeah.
left any permanent harm.
Okay,
I
good, good.
was definitely harmed by it. And there was a Seventh-day Adventist herbal healing clinic in Panachel that they treated me. And they actually did colonics and cleansed my whole system.
Oh,
Went
really?
out all of the, because my eyes were yellow.
Oh, wow.
I had an out-of-body experience. I
Did you,
was very
when you were
sick.
very sick? Yeah.
The first night I was probably had 105 fever, I believe, or something
Yeah.
up there.
That's dangerous.
I saw my body laying there on the bed. The couch was like a cot. And I saw my body. I was up high. I remember the feeling and looking down at my body on the bed there. And then this voice in this whiteness came to me from the right side. I remember it coming from the right. And it said, "It's not your time." And bam, I was back in my body. But
Wow.
it has always kind of helped me not to fear death.
Wow, that's a gift, isn't it?
Yes, I haven't really thought about it in a long time, but it was amazing. And there are quite a few people who have had out of body experiences like that. I've come across them through the years. And it's a very special thing. And within a week, I was walking all around Lake Atitlan and not jaundiced at all. And then we made it back to the States on a train and bus.
Back to Towers?
Yeah. And that's when I met the people who lived communally, the Browns.
Hmm.
Rachel Brown was the
The Weaver.
What?
Was she the weaver? Yeah,
Yes, her family. And I lived with all the Browns, and that's where I met Jim.
that's where you met
And
Jim. So I mean, I'm hearing like a sense of, it was the freedom. There was a sense of kind of like, the rejection of the control of the kind of establishment. I mean, within that, I feel that there's a kind of, a journeying into like your femininity, wanting to kind of explore your independence. I mean, how much did, the love of nature kind of influence that? Like, and the nature and spirituality and health and the physicality of that, maybe like the establishment and the cities, all these things, they weren't really kind of embodied to some extent. It was all very kind of heady experience, old stuff, bringing back things from the past, rather than being able to kind of really be creative and autonomous in that.
I lived down in the Dixon area in Rinconada on a farm on the river on the Rio Grande, David Rigsby's farm, and I had never been around chickens before, and milked a cow and had fresh milk and fresh eggs, and I would go delivering eggs with in this car with one of the people on the farm. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful feeling of connection with the earth. And we also down there in the farm, we would smoke a lot of pot, and sometimes we also took some psychedelics and at the river.
Yeah, I bet it's beautiful now.
Gorgeous. It was so beautiful. It was generally out in nature that what we did. We didn't do anything bizarre. We really just enjoyed nature.
I mean, I always like with my dad, I know that you had a close relationship with your dad, but with my dad, I always have like spectacular conversations with him, and he was such a brilliant man. But I always used to think, God, if only he'd taken psychedelics, if only he'd had his mind expanded by that experience. And for me, one of the biggest things about that experience was that sense of connectivity, that sense that we were all kind of part of this kind of wonderful creativity, and that there was such beauty in that, and that sense of just, yeah, just feeling part of the natural world in a way that was very
I
connecting.
mean, I one time ate, actually drank peyote tea
Mhm.
that we had gotten green buttons from a friend, people in Arizona, and we boiled them up and made tea because it's the most digestible way um, to take peyote. I found that doesn't cause indigestion and
Mhm.
sick. People say you eat peyote and you throw up and then you're high, but I don't care to do that personally. So I would make tea. And one time I drank a good amount of tea, and we went down to the hot springs in the Rio Grande
Mhm.
at what do they call it? Uh,
Nambi, isn't it? Or
yes, we were down at Mamby Hot Springs. And around the springs on the other side of the river are all these big rocks, all these gorgeous, big, different shaped rocks that I'd been going there for many years. We would go from the Rigby farm in Rinconada to Taos and go to the hot springs. That would be one of the things we do. We did. And we would be naked and sometimes have to change which side of the river we were on because the cops would come and want to bust us for being naked.
really?
Yeah, it was crazy. But this one time I was sitting in the water and I was quite high, and I was looking at the rocks, and there was one rock, and she was like, it looked like it was hair, like Medusa. And then the rock talked to me and said, "We have seen you for many years now, and we know we can trust you. and we will reveal ourselves to you. And all of these rocks took on personalities,
Wow.
facial. I'm not making this up. Some
Oh, no.
saw this just like I had the out of body experience, and it's something I'll never forget. And and they showed themselves, and she had her fabulous long like braids. It was like almost like what do you call them now that the people do with all the little braids? Almost like
Dreadlocks kind of thing.
yes,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Her Medusa's hair was like that, and then most of the other rocks, a lot of them were male, and they were just being like happy and moving and smiling at me, and then then I believe that she said something like, "Well, we'll see you," and it stopped. And then I've gone there other times, and they've never shown themselves again.
So fun.
But it was really
Beautiful.
so beautiful, and those. I mean, how would I ever have experienced anything like that if I'd been afraid of psychedelics? And I've never overdone it where I've missed things I needed to do or not taking care of myself, or I am that kind of person. I mean, I'm in control even when I'm not. I don't know how to say
That's
it.
good.
Um, but I have an agenda, and I also, learned so much in the hippie movement about health and
Yeah.
eating.
Okay. Good.
Learned so much, and I've worked for Amigos Natural Grocery when I was, I think it was when I was pregnant with Clay, because I remember being behind the counter and having to fit my big belly at the cash register. I was very pregnant and,
Yeah.
and dealing with cashiering, but I learned so much about nutrition. And I mean, I grew up eating quite healthy, but I really did not realize how dairy affected me. And I learned about gluten and just learned about mixing foods, which my parents knew nothing about.
Yeah. When I first started exploring like the hippie movement in England, I feel like it had a very different kind of connotation to what it had here in America. Like to sometimes I'd say it to people and people wouldn't necessarily think positively of it, or, they would say it kind of failed. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. There's some amazing legacies that
Uh,
came from that time. And I think health, like you're saying, was definitely one of them, like an exploration into health and yoga and, some of these kind of different ways of thinking. They were like vital for how and where we are today.
Absolutely. We are still, we are in these bodies, and we have to be as smart as we can be in what we do to our bodies. And I pretty much stopped taking any kind of psychedelics as I aged, because it was draining, and I didn't like feeling tired for 2 days.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I could miss a night's sleep and then crash and sleep for a day, or I
Yeah.
could do that. And once I have, of course, had children, I could not do that. So I definitely limited my use of, and I don't even smoke pot these days because I find that I still, my apostat was out of control. I'm still like when I first spoke pot at maybe 16, 17 years old, and all you want to do is eat. And then
Yeah.
you eat until just about until you puke. It tastes so good, and you
Mm.
overeat. Don't like that, and it still does that to
Running
me.
out a bit.
So
But I wanted to ask you two questions.
sure.
One was maybe your piece of music from the era, and you chose Ohio from Crosby,
Mhm.
Stills and Nash. And I just wanted you to share a little bit for me about why you chose that song.
Well, it just came up when you asked me. I don't know why that song came up it's a serious song.
Yeah, exactly.
That is why, because the hippie movement was not willy-nilly, silly. It was serious. We had goals.
Yeah,
We had a moral code that we were working with and trying to promote a morality that seemed to be dying in America, and again is dying, in my opinion,
yeah,
very very
exactly.
in danger. And what happened at the school and the kids, the young people who were killed, was a tragedy, and it was something that's why they sang that song. That's why they wrote that song.
Yeah.
It moved me, and it moved everybody. Was just up in arms about what happened, and we didn't want to see that just let go by, and that's why
Absolutely.
I chose that song and not just something cute. I thought that that song has meaning and is about something that we don't want to happen if we can possibly help it to
Well, we
people.
well we touched, didn't we, on the fact that you didn't quite make Woodstock. That you passed the sign as you were going there. But I mean, that was the thing about Woodstock, wasn't it? Is that it was an anti-war festival, but people were dancing and celebrating freedom and each other as a form of protest, and that music was a way and has continued to be a way to voice peacefully our concerns at, violent control, something that was now not only happening in Vietnam, but actually happened to unarmed students at a peaceful protest.
Yeah, it was very, very disturbing. Sometimes the song just goes through my head at night. It did last night.
Yeah. On a different note, because we've got a few more minutes, I wanted to ask you, which I think was the ending question. I think the hippie time was very sexy, and I wanted to ask you one of your sexiest moments. And it doesn't even have to be something with somebody. It could be something that you just felt. Was there a moment where you just felt that infusion of life just move through you and it just felt glorious?
I'm trying to think of the most
I'm sure
one
there were a few.
feeling. Yeah, and I love being naked.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
And perhaps at New Buffalo,
Uh-huh.
I actually played naked volleyball,
Oh, that's brilliant.
and it was really fun to be. That was very sexy, I guess, but also just lovely to be able to be nude and not worry about it being something that was sexual.
Yes.
It was more sensual and just natural. Natural. I love the naturalization. The That's something that's very important to me is things that are natural.
Another saying that I have is, playing is making love with the world. And it kind of comes from, the tantric idea of that people think tantra is just about sex, but it's not. It's about pleasure. And that, that is actually a spiritual practice, that we live in this sensual universe and that's so unique to being human. And I feel like embody that,
I
and so, yeah.
I could not deny it. I cannot deny sensuality, which is sexuality and sensuality. I'm a dancer. I feel I've done Middle Eastern dance, belly dance, and that was just wonderful. Wonderful expression.
We're going to have to go. It's going to cut us off any minute now, Gaila. That was so great. I love you. Thank you so
Love
much. Yeah.
you.
Mm. Thank you. That was lovely.